So Canada's women's under 20 team just defeated Mexico 3-2 in the CONCACAF under 20 Women's Championship to take home the championship for the first time in 17 years. What does it mean? I guess we'll have to talk about it. So guys, welcome to the African channel. I do primarily Canadian African content. If you like this, subscribe button, notifications every time I turn on. If you're not getting them, turn it on and off again because you want to know when I post stuff, apparently. But we're here to talk about Canada's women's under 20 team defeating Mexico in the finals, winning the first U20 championship in 17 years. And there's so much emotion. I just finished eating breakfast because that's what I did this morning. But let's talk about this game. We had Canada and Mexico in the finals, a rematch of their last group game. How that game ended 4-2 with Mexico winning in a rain-soaked affair. I think both teams played well, but Mexico made the best of their opportunities in that first game. And so once we got to the second game, I wondered what game we would get. I just wanted to get a game where it could just be on football. I don't want the elements to affect it too much. It could rain, but we didn't want a torrential rain like we had for their matchup. So Canada came out in this setup, and their starting 11 was pretty much going for it. Noelle Henning in goal with Stephanie Shuley, Jeanette Okiki, Iba Oching, Jadiah Collin with your back line, Olivia Chisholm, Geneva Hernandez-Gray, Victoria Arachi, Tegan Melnhorst, Annabelle Chukwu, and Leah Laroche, the hero of the USA game, Leah Laroche. So that either looked like a 4-4-2, that could have looked like a 4-4-2 diamond. Early on in this game, I felt Canada, and this was a little bit of the theme of the game, Canada had to take a couple of risks. There were points within their pressing where Canada would advance a midfielder, and usually it'd be Geneva Hernandez-Gray. And we saw her differentiated from the USA game where she sat more into that CDM role. But in this game, her advancing into that space really started to cause some havoc. They weren't as clinical as they could be in the first half, but you started to see those opportunities. But right after about, say, the 20th or so minute, Mexico was comfortable on the ball, and this is something you're going to see with Mexico. This is going to be a conversation with them for the next few years. They are almost a program that are comfortable however you want to play. You want to play on the ball, they can play off and pressure you. They can also play with the ball. And the one thing I started to notice was their nines. Their nines were moving very cleverly. I mean, this gives me an opportunity to shout out, I think, Oching Okiki appreciation post. I think those two players were, quite honestly, rocks in the back for Canada. They were the first to balls. They were stepping in to snuff out some counter opportunities. Their spacing was good, and it was lovely to see them play well. I think there are two players who I think, once they get to their professional career, they're going to be solid players, even get some national team looks, I think, for Canada. But I started to notice a thing with the Mexican forwards and the nines. Like, I do need to shout her out, Montserrat Saldivar. I think her off-ball movement, her ability to give herself the angles for those midfield passes or those deep crosses, she's going to be a problem. She's going to be a problem for them. Her Ali Soto, like, this Mexican team is coming. Another note, but you start to see those opportunities kind of creep in. Mexico is the side that are comfortable with the ball, and if you give them that space, they will pick you apart. But if you press them, there were some moments where they were able to suck in the pressure and then get the ball into the middle, and then their midfielders had space to move forward. And it was a game. I was messaging multiple group chats here, but it was about that midfield late run. If they brought that in, it was going to be a risk. It was either going to win or lose the game. But first half ends 0-0. When we get to the second half, and we see Sydney Tai make a couple of substitutions. we get to the second half, and we see substitution choices made, and maybe this is a further conversation. Geneva Hernandez-Gray again plays a half, and she looked better against Mexico, but again, this is a young player. But I don't think Geneva had the best tournament here. For what we see in her, for we see what her potential could be, I don't think she had the best tournament, and that's not a bad thing. Players can grow, players can learn, but not the best tournament, I think, for the player that we hoped that she can be. But she's still young, and she'll have the opportunity to continue to develop, and we'll watch that. Then we saw Sienna Gibson come in for her. We saw Inez Nurani come in for Victoria Rachi, and then Liana Tarasco for Jadiya Collin, who was running out of gas in the first half. One of my thoughts with this U20 side, and especially with Sydney Tai, is, and it's tough, squad rotation is always a thing for me where I wish sometimes we had a better run with it, if that makes sense. Jadiya played a lot of the minutes here, and she ran out of steam in the second, at the end of the first half. But Liana Tarasco, I think, stepping in at both fullback positions as well as Inez Nurani, I think those, Liana, unsung hero, being able to step in, tackling, a lot of good potential with that player. She continues to develop. But this game goes on, we get to the 50th minute, and you see Liana get a ball deep. She cuts it back inside, and that late run that was available throughout the first half, you see Sienna Gibson attack it. She puts a shot top right, top bins. It's 1-0 Canada. It is 1-0 Canada. At this point, you're thinking, okay, cool. They get the goal, and then the chaos starts to happen. 10 minutes later, Montserrat Saldivar crashes towards the net. She gets a push from Okiki from the back. That gets taken. That's just called immediately as a penalty. Now, in the score thing, you think, I wonder if that's actually a penalty. But you see the shove at the end. That gets called. It got called late. I might as well say this now. The refereeing wasn't great on both sides. This isn't they were out to get Canadians. I mean, Tegan Mellenhorst was tackled multiple times. Unfair for a small player. At some point, the ref make a call. But even like calls, at one point, Ibo Ching had put on a foul on Saldivar, and the ref was just gonna let it play, and then she looked and saw Saldivar on the ground, and was just like, okay, well, we'll give a yellow here. I felt like the ref wanted to let the players decide, but the ref could have stepped in at any point and actually, dictated the rules of the game. And that's the thing. The ref will always dictate how the game is going to be played. If you want it to be physical, let it be physical. If you don't. My thing with refereeing is I don't need you to be perfect. I just want you to be consistent, right? If, as crazy as it sounds, if you can hip check a player and they're not going to get called in the 3rd minute, then don't call it in the 83rd minute. Set the tone early. Tell us what type of game we're going to play, and then go from there. But that's called as a penalty. It's 1-1. Saldivar goes down left, lower left. Noelle Henning guesses right, but as the shot goes, it goes in. It's 1-1. Mexico makes a few substitutions, and then Leila Laroche out in the 80th minute, and then Adriana Bianchin comes in the 80th minute. We get to the 89th minute, and chaos continues. A bad header off of a goal kick, I believe, and Annabelle Chukwu is in alone on the goal. Martinez, the goalkeeper for Mexico, comes out, tackles. It looks like it could be a red. It's given a yellow. Goes to VAR. It is a red. Let me tell you, that whole sequence was confusion to me. First it was, hey, it's a yellow. Okay. Then there's every group chat I'm in starts going crazy. Is that a yellow or is that a red? I don't know. Then it goes to VAR. They rescind the yellow. I'm like, well, it's going to a red. It rescinds the yellow, puts a card. There's a shot of the goalie where he's like, okay, cool, no card. And then ref goes to the back pocket for a red. And I'm just like, oh, that is every emotion. And it's a tough play, but I mean, in this world of VAR, the lines matter. And she was behind. She was the last line of defense. So that is a Doxo red. So direct on goal scoring opportunity, red card. So Mexico's down their keeper in the 90th minute. We have a straight on goal, a shot. It doesn't go in. 13 minutes of additional time. We go to additional time. And even a player down, Mexico was possessing the ball. And this was something that was kind of tough. Mexico, again, whatever type of game you want to play, Canada came out and weren't going to try to possess and move the ball around. They wanted to be a little bit safe. And there were flows in the additional time as well as the second half where Canada would have Mexico hemmed in. But then once Mexico got the ball, it was literally, there's nothing you can really do. So we get to the 96th minute off of a flurry of corners. Tegan Malahorst puts it in. It appears to bounce off of Annabelle Chukwu to Adriana Bianchin, who it ricochets off her, goes into the net. It's 2-1. Inaudible noises for me. And Canadians are thinking, okay, we have a shot here. A minute later. I don't know what it is with U20s, but this happened when this was the World Cup last year, the Women's U20 World Cup, where they score against Spain, and we're just like, we're gonna, and then Spain answers immediately. And those runs, Saldivar manipulating her space, finding the right angles. Now in this situation, Jeanette Okiki steps back far too much, and yes, she's the last line, but in this situation, gives room for the pass from the midfield. Montserrat gets it, puts it away. It's 2-2. I'm telling myself I can't have nice things. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna, like, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, they're gonna win this game amazingly. I was getting ready, like, Annabelle Chukwu racing coming, or they're gonna lose it because Mexico have been more dangerous with their opportunities. And that was the thing. Mexico were dangerous in putting their nines in positions to be successful, and Canada were relying on, it felt sometimes that once Annabelle got the ball, she had to be the creator and the finisher. And that's not necessarily always the case, but it felt like that sometimes. Janoki picks up a yellow in the 104th minute. They switch sides. In the 116th minute, Catherine Ozard puts in the ball after a corner. Again, Canada hemming in. It hits a Mexican player in the arm. We get a penalty to win it, which is saved. Not Annabelle's best penalty, to be perfectly honest. I've seen her put shots on frame with much more power, and I think at this play she's trying to say just score. But goalkeeper gets this right. Annabelle misses the penalty, and every Canadian at this point is starting to think, well, they're going to go to penalties, they're going to lose in penalties, aren't they? This is the way it's going to go. And then Istaki passes the ball in the 122nd minute to Annabelle Chukwu, who works her way to the end line. And on the audacity of it, gets to the byline. We've seen her score a goal like this before. I think it was in one of the prelim rounds, but she gets it to the end line, plays it off her left, and then uses her right and chips it over the goalkeeper into the far region of the net. It's 3-2. They go up. A few more chances from Mexico, but Canada comes out as the victors, 3-2. There's just so many thoughts about this, but I'll try to keep them really short because I've rambled enough, and we're almost at 15 minutes, folks. I think congratulations to this team. It's amazing to think of the amount of times they've played a Mexico side and played them very close and tough. Where we think about the last few times. Before this game, their record was 4 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. And so, ultimately, it was going to be a tight game, and it's always a battle of wills and styles in this case. I think, and I've said this about this Mexico side. Mexico are built to take on this versions of like the U.S. and Canada. We've seen them on a senior team get wins versus the U.S., and we've seen them give Canada trouble. I don't think there's a problem with how they are. They are built to win in multiple ways, whether they want to win possessing the ball, whether they want to win defending well and be on the counter. They are just built well for that. That being said, this Canadian side, and we'll get into this a little bit later on over the next couple of weeks with different content dropping. But if you look at the last 3 cycles of U20 players for Canada, they're all actually starting to hit, right? The 2022 crop has the likes of Simi Wujo, Jade Rose, Holly Ward, who's now getting more and more reps with the national team, and I think a player who's on the way, Nikayla Small, right? The 2024 cycle, yes, already included players of the likes of Olivia Smith, right? But then you already had players like them. Oh, we didn't even mention a player like Zoe Burns, who also deserved recognition for how they ran and how they played. Then you go to the 2023 side, and then you start to see names who've also got call-ups. Ella Ati, the Amanda Allen. You see Annabelle Chukwu, who got a call. You saw Geneva Hernandez-Gray, Kayla Briggs, more recently getting some run coming forward, right? And then you look at this side, right? Yes, Geneva Hernandez-Gray from this era as well coming in. But then you have the Annabelle Chukwu, who, to me, I mean, if you're Canadian, think of a possible future with Annabelle Chukwu and Olivia Smith as your 9-10 combination. I mean, they're going to be bullies. They'll be the smallest bullies on the pitch, but they will be bullies. But you see the names, the Melon Horse of the names. Also, does everyone have a sibling who's played youth? Because Tegan's here. Kira played for the futsal team. Annabelle's twin is out there doing her thing. The U20 teams are about to start to push some of these professionals. And that doesn't mean that we're going to have a youth movement altogether. But think of some of those names in the last 3 cycles of U20s. Nia Rose, name I didn't even mention. She got her debut call up already. Right? Think about that. These players are starting to call. They've had a taste of national team reps, and now they're back either in college or starting their professional careers. The future of this Canadian program is looking so bright. Oh, and by the way, we finally started a league. It is going to be exciting. Now, again, I always want to start that and then stop by saying development isn't linear. Just because Annabelle Chukwu is where she is right now doesn't mean that she's going to be this. It doesn't, like, we need to let these players become what they want to be is really what I'm trying to say, right? I say all this, and there's a name that I've been thinking about for the U20s where I keep thinking, I wonder how Rosa Malouf starts and has her year, because the U20s aren't until next year. You could arguably add Rosa Malouf to that list as she continues on in Texas. The youth programs are starting to create players, not that they haven't before, but you're starting to see them come into the team, maybe not in that giant wave like we saw in 2014, but you're starting to see these players, and you're starting to see the seeds of, okay, this could be interesting. This could be fun. The transition over the next year will be interesting. I still don't think that we can't compete and do well with our current crop. But if you look at our neighbors to the south, how they've been starting to integrating young, hungry players, right? The Lily Johannes's of the world, right? The Michelle Coopers, every Thompson sister this side of the Mississippi. I think Canada could have their own version of that when we look at the youth teams and how they are starting to produce players. right? And that's just players who've come through the U20 cycle. That doesn't even start to look at players who maybe aren't on that pool, right? The players who weren't invited to camps but are developing there, right? For every Jesse Fleming, there's an Evelyn Vienne, right? For every Jordan Huitema, there is a Marielle Liu. And also, for every Shalina Zadorsky, there's a Vanessa Gilles who comes out of nowhere, and you're able to see that. I think the women's program is starting to look very intriguing and exciting if you're a young player. And if you're a fan of Canada. And as for Mexico, I think how they're building, they're going to be a problem. They have players who can be clinical. Now it's just a matter of, can they play teams more at their senior level where they aren't just pests and great at countering and great at pressuring and pressing? Because I think they're going to be a problem in CONCACAF. But for Canada, oh Canada, what a run by this. I wouldn't even say this is the best. For me, this is me being very selfish. I think last year's U20 team, right? Team led by Olivia Smith, Annabelle Chukwu up top with Nia Rose, with Florian Jord there. I think that whole group I'm excited for, but you cannot not say a huge congratulations to this group for what they did, what they've been able to accomplish. And now they have a year to prepare, right? That'll be a year's worth of friendlies, a year's worth of taking a look at other players. And I think come next year, they will be set and ready to go and to attack when it comes to that World Cup. They have a year of development to come through. And maybe there are players we aren't even thinking of who are going to make the squad. But for now, let's just bask in the glory of this moment. Congratulations, Baby Reds. You guys have done something. Whispers, the first of many summer trophies for Canada Soccer. Let me have nice things. I don't need all the things. I just need some nice things. But guys, if you've watched this all from front to end, what did you like? Who is your player of the tournament for Canada? Or just tournament overall? Who are players that you saw on different teams that stood out to you? For me, I know Annabelle Chukwu gets that, but to me, there is an Ibo Ching and Jeanette Okiki appreciation. They were rocks in the back line. Noelle Henning as well, but those two defenders, especially in the US game, they were first to the balls. They were physical when they needed to be. They are, if I had to give it to 3 players, it's those 3 players. But you guys let me know in the comments. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right here.